Hey, welcome to the Rapper Panel live stream. My name's Zeno, and there are some people behind. They're not really. They're actually in their own living rooms and shops and whatnot. Are you ready? Here they come. That's it. That's all I had. I guess it worked out, right? I guess it worked out. So yeah, there is the rap chat comments, that feed. If you leave comments on the Facebook page or in YouTube, we get those and they come up here. So if you have questions for any of these guys on stage tonight, then be sure to ask, or compliments for all of them is also welcomed. So I'm going to welcome Shane Lloyd from Gecko Raps again. How are you doing, sir?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Troy Yates, Capital Raps. Tamir, is it Luria?
Yeah, Luria, man. A+. Tamir Luria. You got it.
I did good. I'm good with names that end in vowels. I'm excited. So we've never met, and so I think that's really interesting because I get to I have so many of the beginner questions to ask, and you too, Troy. But I can already tell, like, you're pretty much a rap god, really. Then is that what I'm? Shane, am I right about that?
No, we don't even use that term anymore. That's been plagued. I would just say I'm more of a technical advisor.
You're more of a what?
We don't say rap gods or lords or kings or queens or whatever you want to associate yourself with. We're trying to go more, right in the center divide right there.
That's funny. So Troy, tell me about what you used to be. A sign painter, yeah, right? You can, let's see. I want to see if I can do that. Can I unmute you? Nope. You're going to have to unmute yourself, Troy. Oh, hold on. Hey, Troy. Hang up and call back. That is not his silhouette.
Do we have some more technical difficulties?
No. I don't know. He just didn't show up. Hey. I mean, it says, hold on a minute.
There you are. I see it go away that time.
There we go.
Yeah, you got it. So yeah, I started painting signs when I was a kid by hand.
I always knew after I started that whatever graphics business, and then I figured out what die cut lettering was, I realized, like I was telling you before, that there was people that used to paint signs. Like, that's where it started. And I guess I'm curious, what did that feel like to watch that whole system change and really kind of be replaced?
It's a very normal discussion for me. As a sign painter and as a artist that got into signs from that perspective instead of from the technical side, watching that whole era of people who did hand pinstriping and airbrushing and the hand painted signs and murals and billboards, it was to watch it change was interesting. And I fought it. In 2001, I finally said, okay, my hands have had enough. I've beat them up, and I thought I was doing the right thing, but a squeegee and a knife is not the way to go either.
So what do you find? What do you do with most of your time now?
The accomplishment from finishing installs and the different installs, variations of wraps from the countertops in rentals to appliances to vehicles, trains, airplanes, helicopters, cargo ships, whatever we can get vinyl to stick to. I used to tell everyone I'll paint anything I can get paint to stick to. Now I tell everyone that I'll stick vinyl to anything I can get it to stick to.
That's awesome. So you're doing installations now then?
Well, it's we do everything at the shop. I mean, from the on-set concept to completion. But my focus is still on my team, the install team, because the install team in any shop is the final. It's what the customer sees last. The customer doesn't see it being designed. The customer doesn't see the hand holding between the designers and our team, and then from the team to the install or production team back out to the installation side. You know, it becomes a challenge when it's all put together. That's why I really like being an outside installer. I didn't have everything else that's in front of it. Being back in the shop, you get the full Monty. You get it from the time the customer walks in to the time they walk back in 10 more times or 15 or 20 times before they get it wrapped. And you've got, it's a whole variant of clientele.
Now, I love the fact that you're using the word team. Tell us about what do you do in your environment, and how do you encourage the team effort?
I'm in it. Keone and I both are in it with them every day, hands on. We don't sit in the office. Well, Keone sits in the office more than I do. I can't sit in the office. I want to be hands on. We like to go out on the installs. We've got a lot of national accounts. We'll fly out or drive out. I mean, we just got back from doing a job in Dallas, and I drove out and drove back 18 hours. And it's the hands-on that I think makes the team more comfortable. They see us doing it. They realize that we're not asking them to do anything that we won't do ourselves and haven't. We got down to 6 or 7 employees in our shop, and during the COVID onset, and we got it back up now to where we have some help back, but we stayed running. We had the router cut in acrylic, and we adapt and overcome. I said, we're puzzlers, and if you're not a good puzzler or a good problem solver, this is definitely a bad industry to choose to be in.
That is a great way to say it. I'm prior military service, so adapt and overcome is always at the forefront of my mind. You just got to constantly evolve and kind of move with the pace. So that's awesome that you're doing that and encouraging a team effort. That's stuff that I think the industry needs to hear. We all need to hear how you're encouraging that and what kind of efforts you're taking to make your team environment better, because everybody in the shop has to be happy. You don't want to have that negative feeling or the negativity in there, because that negativity can draw the whole shop down.
And it's like a plague in the shop. Our biggest thing is to try to keep everybody happy. It's stressful, especially in the environment that we put ourselves in, where we're doing national accounts, and we're also doing a lot of local stuff. And you've got customers in and out every day, and you've got problem solving to take place, and you customers to deal with. Not every job is perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect wrap. We can all try, but there's no such thing as a perfect wrap. And the biggest thing with the guys is, like I was telling y'all in the chat last week during the live broadcast, you can train them, and the best you can do is educate them and teach them what you've experienced and what you've seen that works the best. Every installer on the planet installs something differently. We all may have some same traits, but we all have our own little special ways of doing things our own way. And we all become individuals. And after you train them, after a couple of years and they get comfortable, the comfortness grows, and they want to grow themselves. And you don't want to hold anyone back. You want them to grow. I've told quite a few of the guys that I've worked with over the years, please go out, find out how hard it is to get the contracts, maintain the contracts, and keep customers happy on a large level, or when you're doing large fleets and state to state, and then come back and talk to me later and tell me how much you learned from it. Go ahead. I mean, you can't hold them back. That's why I'm all about educating the younger generation on what it took for us to get where we are. And help them along the way, shorten their curve, because our curve was steep.
Tamir, what do you? I'm just kind of on pins and needles to hear what you got to say. I mean, I bet you are probably a very go-getter, team effort kind of guy. What do you do with your teams to inspire them and get them moving in the right direction so everything's forward moving?
I love that this is, the topic right now, because I'm not the technical guy, in my shop. I came into my parents' business 14 years ago not knowing how to run a single machine. And sorry, I'm out of the shot. And I still don't know how to run a single machine. I've had to. My parents didn't want me to do that. They had me on the front end. They had me develop, project manage, estimate. And when you're on the front end, we appreciate it as business owners, not as much as when we're employees doing production work, but when we're business owners, we realize how much the team is important. When we're in production ourselves, and we could probably go back, to when we were in production, and we can notice other people that we were working with kind of act like this. They're in like their own silos. They're like, oh, this is not my job to do this, not my job to do that. They don't have the team, mentality. So when you're on the front end and you're project managing and you don't have the ability to say, oh, well, if he doesn't do it, F it, I'll just do it myself. I can't do that, So it's on me to develop the camaraderie between the team members themselves and give them a connection between them and the ownership. And not only that, but also them and the customers, right? So when a customer says, hey, I want to show you a picture of like this big building wrap that you did, everything turned out great. Customer love it. I print that shit out. Sorry, am I allowed to say that? I print that
You
out.
absolutely better fucking swear. I'm just saying, because I have sworn in front of my kids since they were 5. It's good. I don't. So please feel free to speak freely. I cannot be put in that box.
You know what? That's the real person, and we want to talk to the real person. Like there are no individual. You don't have to wear a mask here either, bro. I'm just saying.
if somebody shows up with a mask on, I'm going to leave the chats.
I don't want you guys to get the COVID.
Right. Man.
Hey, we're less than 6 feet apart right now on this screen. I mean, we're that far apart.
We are. So tell me about Sign Business Mastery. I'm guessing because of your brilliantly chosen title, your goal is to help people with the business side of sign businesses.
That's it, man, because that's what I know. I mean, I know enough about machines, production, specs to get a project going, to know which of the, several machines I should put it with, which one likes friggin' blue ink and which one hates green or yellow, and which one's got banding on which one. I know all that shit, but I just, you put me in front of the machine and I can't turn the damn thing on. So what I had to do, what that forced me to do was think business first. Like, hey, you're not going to be able to.
Because you're not good at anything else. You're going to have to focus on the business. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Since you don't have this parachute of, hey, if nobody comes to work for you, at least you can jump on the machines. No, I don't have that. If I can't get guys to come in on the weekends, if I can't get them motivated to come on the weekends, to stay at night sometimes, to work those hard seasons when they have to, and tell them, hey, look, right now this is your holiday bonus right now, right? And then be in there, fist pumping, talking about their kids, doing all the ancillary crap that you need to do in order to make them feel good. Then I wouldn't be able to make banners, signs, 3D graphics. We do 3D printing. I wouldn't be able to have the time to research all these other applications that just continue adding to the bottom line. So what Sign Business Mastery is the evolution of the shop owner to become a business owner, right? That's what we focus on. shop owner to business owner, self-employed, to business owner.
Right.
A lot of books
working in the shop to working in the business to working on the business. That's the focus, and that's where every entrepreneur that starts in this industry, whether you start with one printer or you start with 10 and don't know how to use them. I've been in that position where I've had nobody around, all this equipment, and have had to go, better fire up YouTube. So I know what it's like to have, all of that around, but it is, you've got to, there is a transition point where you have to let go. And that's hard for every business owner. It's letting go. And a lot of times you have to let go in a sense where you let go in a way where you have to trust a lot of people to do it. And sometimes it's so hard to just let that happen, but the process has to happen.
Especially since you're kind of a control freak.
What are you talking about?
I'm just, am I right? You were. You've grown, I'm sure. But am I right? You were that way, weren't you?
Yeah, it's tough. It's still tough for me today, I mean, I go in and I'm like, oh, I gotta walk away.
I have to get out of everyone else's way because I fuck it up. Like, I show up, I'm like, here, I'll help, and now they're like, no, just go back to your office. Yeah,
I've been told you got to go out there.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
you don't know what you're doing anymore, sir.
Yeah. I forgot. I make things worse. My bad. You guys have. It's like I go in there and I throw a rock into the machine, and I'm like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
Well, that's what I feel like when I walk in the middle of a Monday morning meeting. I need to turn around, walk back out, and get back in the shop because I don't need to be in that meeting.
That's awesome. So really, I would guess then is that what you do is you help people implement systems.
That's it. Yeah, because my parents, this is my parents' business that I manage for them. And 10 years in, they started this business on the heels of my dad getting laid off from his job. So, and they started doing well, right? They got jobs, they worked. I mean, I remember seeing my dad. I'm a senior in high school getting ready to go to college. And my mom comes in my room saying, your dad just got laid off. And I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I mean, what does that mean for me? Do I, take job? Like, I had no idea. And she said that, well, we've got this business plan of starting a printing company and we're not sure what's going to happen, but, we're going to go for it. And I'm like, okay. And I would come in, I helped them move their equipment in. I would punch grommets whenever I could, make samples for customers. I'm a senior in high school at the time. Weekends, I'm helping them out. Summers in college, they started doing well. They started making money. And then a few years into the business, they started doing real well. And I'm talking like, seven figures plus. And about 10 years into the business, I have a conversation with them and I find out that they're entertaining offers to sell the business. And I'm like 28 years old at the time. And I'm like, how the fuck do you go from getting canned to not knowing if you're going to eat to being successful and be like, oh, I think I'm just going to sell this thing. Like, what, like you were too successful? Like, I didn't understand what that meant. Like, why wouldn't you continue? This is like a cash cow for you guys. And what I came to understand is that, when my mom was up 11, 12 o'clock at nights, working estimates, invoices, 4 o'clock in the morning, she's emailing customers. She's the only one that can do estimates, the only one that can do quotes. And she wasn't able to get the help that she needed. And she wasn't able to, and it was mostly on the front end. The production was kind of covered for the most part, except my dad had to keep maintaining the machines. So I came in and I was like, hey, let me try to help you guys. Will you take me into the business and try to save this thing? And they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's give it a shot. And I came into the business not wanting to be stuck in any one thing. I made it a point to learn, as I'm learning, to see how I can create a system for it, and then diffusing it to other people so that they can do it, and then learning the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And within a year, I was able to completely take over the front end. My parents are going on vacations. They buy an apartment halfway across the world. They're taking months off, weeks off at a time in the beginning. And now I'm running the place, but I still don't know how to turn on a single machine. I just learned a few months ago how to turn off the compressor.
So there's a question that's on the table in the chat. As a business owner, what are your top 3 priorities?
Directed to me?
Yes.
Or
it is addressed to you.
I need a deep roster. Number one, I need to have talent everywhere, basically, because like I said, I'm not the one that can step in and do it. And neither is my dad. My mom passed away a year ago. So she was the one who I could rely on if my first or second string people, including me, were out. So I needed to work on deepening my roster. So that's my number one thing. I'm training my shipping guy to do pre-flighting because we have processes in place that dumbs it down, right? I have my printer operators doing press checks, Pantone matches to make sure that the Pantone colors are right. They're taking the swatch books and they're putting it up against them. They're putting it up against the prints, and they're sending pictures to my remote pre-press guy, and they're color matching remotely, right? And we're cross training. We're cross training like hell. So depth of roster is the most important thing right now. For me, number one. Number two is I need to have sales come in consistently, at the right sales come in consistently. When I see shit jobs like $50 banners, $100 stickers, and by $100 stickers, I don't mean like a 3x4 sticker that's $100. I'm talking like cutting 6-inch circles, 500 of them for $100. I'm talking about the right jobs. I'm talking about, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 print jobs. And I want to make sure that I'm getting those jobs. I want to make sure I'm talking to those customers that will give us those jobs. And then the other thing here is making sure that my team is involved with the end game. That I show them the customer shout outs, the testimonials, the praise. I go to them, and I just last night I texted my production manager, and I'm vulnerable with them. And I say to them, I told this guy, he just wrapped up a project. I said, thank you. You are an incredible partner. Thank you so much. And I'll see you tomorrow. You have to be vulnerable with your staff. And I think that's, that didn't come automatically for me, and I think that's, that's something where a lot of us have this wall. It's like, well, they're my employee, I'm paying them. So naturally, they have to, they have to perform. Well, there's performance and then there's purpose, right? And all of my guys have not had any reason to stay at home in this environment. Some have even asked me to come back full time because they see a purpose being at Grand Image, and I give them that every day. Top 3.
What about you, Troy? What do you think? Top 3 priorities, things you think about try it that way. I probably, hold on. Let me see. There you go.
There I am.
All right, go ahead.
Top three, keeping the team happy, from the front end to the person who sees the customer last. I think that the priority lies in a real strong team. The people that you have in front, me and Keone both still go out and we do a lot of sales ourselves. And we help the sales team out. We also help with the design. We help with the production. And we're back to running the printers, the laminators, the production table. We've tried to do that, keep Keone out of the shop and in there doing the business side, because we felt like he was best at that. But he still is in the back and he's still installing, especially when we get in a bind, which has been frequent lately. I think everybody I've spoke with that doesn't have a team, and it's only a few, because I came from a shop in the very beginning where it was only 5 of us, and we produced a whole lot of work in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area for a long time. And no matter how big your team is, whether it's 2, because when I was just an outside installer, as a business owner, me and one other person, we would have time to time different help that would help us out, but me and him were the team, and we traveled all over the country together. Now I'm in a bigger group, a bigger team, and the stakes are a little different. You do worry about that constant sales. Sales are huge, just like he was saying, get your sales strong, and then the team and the size of the team will follow. The more sales you have, the stronger your team has to become, the larger your team has to become.
Sales comes first.
Yeah. And having someone in the industry that knows what they're selling is huge. A lot of times I can have a salesman tell a client for months what we can produce for the client, and I can go out there in 30 minutes and show the client versus what they already have and sign a contract. Proving a concept is big, and until you can teach your sales team how to do it, it's a struggle in this industry. It's a huge industry. The sign industry is massive, but the group of people, and I've seen it in the chats and my friends and people that I know well all over the country, I'd love to be at RapsCon so I could say hey and meet everybody in person, and especially the new guys and some of the old ones too. I was just at the Hexus certification class in Georgia at their facility, and Albert told everybody in the room that he had never seen anybody else but me back a 53-foot trailer in a convention center and wrap it for a demonstration. And I didn't realize Albert was at that trade show. That was many years ago. That was in 05, 06, 07, somewhere in there. And it was kind of a shock to me. It was like a reality check. I'd say the sales, yeah, Zeno, the sales are huge, but you got to have a sales team that knows what they're selling. We've tried different salesmen from different areas, even some from billboard sales that got one now that was in billboard sales, and they're doing okay. But the variations and variables in a shop that has so many different avenues of sales, it's hard to teach a salesman to focus in one direction. Like me and Keone both have discussed having salesmen just for architectural, and salesmen just for vehicles, and salesmen just for fleets. And so now it's compartmentalize the sales team, and then we have to compartmentalize the art team, and then we have to compartmentalize the production team. And then we go back to the national network of installers, the PDAA. Shane, I know you're in with PDAA, and I was in the very beginning. I think in 07, it was 07, down at Wade Davis's, that first certification class that took place at Wade's place. I was down there with Rob and Nathan Franzblau, and I helped tear it down and take the cars back after certification class, and I got my master that day. And then I think I was grandfathered in with 3M in 2010. And
What did they just?
We got, we got a
Were they
lot of
like?
changes happening with PDAA.
Were they
I
just
hope
like,
so,
yeah, go
man.
ahead, give him it, give him the certification. He's done it all. Is that
Well,
how they did it? Is that what you mean, grandfathered?
No, it was a situation where I was asked to be a part of a team that was doing some work on a special project, and part of the stipulation on being a part of the team was that you had to be 3M certified, and I refused. I was like, it's just not gonna happen. And so he was like, all right, well, we'll just grandfather you in, and that was that. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if it still stands. I went back and got the Hexas certification because of the PPF and the new direction that paint protection film is going. And Hexas has got a really good product for PPF, and I wanted to get my Hexas stuff in place. 3M, I feel like I know so many people at 3M that it's like, okay, if you want me on a job, just call me. I mean, I don't look to be on
We
people's
don't need no
websites or pay the money.
certifications.
I just, and I guess I've had them, but when I went to looking for the physical certifications, I had none. And so I was like, oh, well, you know, it is what it is. Now I have one. So
That's awesome.
It's been interesting from the install side to watch the industry grow.
Now, I want to touch back on a couple of things that you talked about on sales. Now, for me, it's always hard to find the right salesperson and, you know, the proper way to set up a compensation plan, things of that. Tamir, this question is kind of geared towards you because I know that you're really good at this front office stuff. What would you advise people and shop owners about the best way to hire a salesperson, you know, the best compensation plan that you've come up with? Because I know that there's so many variables when you're talking about sales, and it's always good to get a refresh course from somebody that's done it all and hired those guys and built that team. And I would really like to hear what you do for sales and how you broach that topic, because you know it's not easy to bring on a new salesperson and do all the training, and it's always hard to find the perfect guy. And what is it that you do to find that guy?
Yep. It's I mean, it's the holy grail of expanding your business, right? I mean, for the first thing you have to do before we even talk about sales is to make sure you have your pricing right, because some people can't even afford salespeople, right? If you don't have your pricing right, then you have to then you can't afford the sales support. You know, you have to have the salesperson. The salesperson has to go hunt. Maybe they're a hunter and farmer, so they're writing work orders for you too. But there has to be production coordination support in there. So there has to be an infrastructure to support the sales. He or she can't just feel like they're on their own and they're acting like basically the shop owner without doing any production. Okay, so it's got to be an attractive environment for the salesperson. The prudent salesperson is going to ask the shop owner, you know, I bring a customer in the door, then what happens? You know, who gives me the pricing? Do I come up with the pricing? What is my compensation based off of? The best, and then there are people with no experience that we've hired, and then there are people with more sales experience in the industry than even me, and they have this whole network of subcontractors too that they're going after. And now we're in Massachusetts. I'm talking to a guy who's going to be an outside guy in New York City, who's just going to concentrate on one application, who used to own a sign shop, and he's going to be my subcontractor there, and I'm treating him differently. So it's all different. You have to play to your strengths. When you see somebody who you like, then you have to build the system around them using their talents. So so it really depends. Like, so with somebody who's completely new, who needs to be trained technically on this stuff, then I don't start them in saying, hey, get out there and get us work. I say, hey, call a bunch of people and get us leads, okay? And bring that into my sales system. Do that for 3 months, okay? Call on the phones, canvass the community, just be a lead generator. All right. And then when those jobs come in, then start putting them into, we use Sirius, others may use Shopbox, whatever you use, start putting that into the system, follow the job around. Actually, even before a salesperson or anybody on the front end starts for us, I have them 1 to 2 weeks in the shop shadowing different areas in the shop so that they, so that they understand. I even have them do a capstone project at the end of their training where they go online, they pick a design, they pick an application. Maybe it's a dimensional sign that they want to put in their man cave or something like that. And I have them literally just go from concept to design and just watch it go. And I even have them, go on the CNC and press the buttons and really appreciate what it's like to make the product, because only then are you going to separate, the guy that just punches numbers into a system from the guy that, really knows what it takes to get a job done. And that goes back to the point I was making earlier, is that you have to think pricing first. Your pricing has to be robust enough to feed your business, to feed the growth of your business. And
what margins do you try to attain?
Here we go
to make that
down the rabbit hole.
I mean, I'm not trying to talk pricing. I'm trying to talk margin. Now, in order to compensate your sales staff, you have to have an appropriate amount of margin in your project. That's just the common denominator. That's right, where you have to be. And whether you're selling ping pong balls or wraps, you have to take in consideration your cost of goods sold. You have to take in consideration your labor, any of your other overhead prices. And then you have to have your commission or your structure. So what margin do you suggest when you're writing up your estimates? I use Sirius too, so I check our margins on a daily. So I can look at those projects and I can say, I know exactly how much material is going to be. I know how much time this is going to be on my laminator. I know how much time this is going to be on the printer. And when I'm, Sirius also has a function for your commission and your structure. So do you utilize that feature, and are you utilizing a margin base on your project so you could offset that cost for your salesperson?
Yeah, I mean, I put in Sirius for different applications what I think the market can bear, different multipliers for different materials. If I think a material that costs me 11 cents a square foot, the market can bear 3 times the multiple versus another product that that costs a little more, then I'm going to do it because I know that the perceived value of that product is much higher. So I don't do straight up cost plus. My multipliers on different materials are all over the place because I understand what the market can bear. So that's, all goes back to pricing. You have to get your pricing down. And as Sirius margins aren't the same thing as QuickBooks margins, whatever you see on your P&L. But and I look at my monthly P&Ls. I'm a guy that just does that monthly, quarterly, annually. I try to look at the ratios between what my labor is to how many hours in the shop was had, and I want to know how much money I'm paying per hour for the employees that are there. I'm telling everybody here who's listening, if you are charging $75 per hour on your labor on the front end, like you put $75 per hour, that's what I'm charging for labor. If you think about it, that's a full-time employee. By the time you take benefits out, the stuff that they're doing that isn't billable out, you're not making anything that you can use to invest back into your business.
Right.
Okay. We are at the shops that I talk to. That's the shops that are in the mastermind. I set a goal for everybody to be at least 125, and whenever somebody tries that, They see, hey, look, I can make more and more and more and more and more. I'm just going to keep upping the price, on certain applications. So going back to margins, I want to see QuickBook margins of 60%. If they fall under 55, I'm questioning it. 60%, I'm really happy with. That means, could we get more prudent with our materials and be more efficient? Sure, but I'd rather spend that energy getting, whales of clients. There's only so much you could squeeze a penny.
That is that clock is it's quite a clock, man. Is that one of those old like grandfather?
Not my clock.
No, I know it's not yours. It's his.
Oh.
I had to keep
Oh,
muting him. It's like I knew it was one of those. Like, what was it about those clocks that every house had them? Like, they're amazing. So I have, and I, we don't need to get too far into the weeds of pricing, but I always share this kind of framework when you're talking to somebody who's new in the business, is that it's normal for someone to do this. They go, material is this, and then my time, well, let's say it's $100 an hour. Okay, cool. That's how much the price is. And then that's it. Right. And then what they do, though, is they go, well, because my overhead is low, then that means I can charge less and get more work. I've always felt like you should charge what it is worth in the market, or at least consider it when you go before you decide what the price is actually going to be. Do cost plus, and then do what the market is, just so you don't miss out on some of that double check. But I feel like here's what is important to me. What's important to me is that when I sell someone a sign, a graphics, a job, I want the money that they spend with me to make them way more money than they gave me. That's why design matters. That's why quality matters, so you don't waste their time. All of those things matter. And if I can give more in that, then I'll just say it this way. If I know I do a van wrap for 10 grand and it makes the guy 50, that wrap's probably worth 25. Like, if you look at it from that market side. So I guess my point is when you start off, if you price everything so cheap because you don't have overhead, then you will never have enough money to actually invest in your business to get to the point where you do have that kind of overhead. That's what I tell people. What do you guys think?
Well, pricing seems to be a fun game. Wraps, vehicle wraps, bus wraps, wall wraps, they're all great. But in the same amount of time that it takes me to do a color change the correct way and make a profit of maybe $2,000, maybe $2,500 in the market here, that's a profit. In the same days, I can go make 10 times that profit doing architectural films or boat graphics or PPF. The profit margins change dramatically when the projects change dramatically. And so I like the wraps. I like the little individuals here and there, and I like the fleets. But when it comes to bigger projects, it seems like as a salesman and as an installer, the challenge gets larger. And so as the challenge gets larger, you look for the next challenge. So I challenged the profit margins to be as high as possible. I heard you say 125. Is that what?
Minimum.
125 is what you shoot for?
No, minimum.
Okay.
Minimum.
So I like, I know I heard Shane say something about he watches them daily. I think it could be detrimental if you sit around and watch the up and down of that profit margin change. But if you constantly push your guys for that higher profit margin, due to project, not due to material, not due to it's time versus a dollar. If you know you can put a higher profit margin or a higher profit line at the bottom line, wouldn't you go for that to begin with? And I don't know technically how to say that,
He just said all of what I said in like 6 words. That was way better than what I said. That was that was brilliant. Shouldn't you? Basically, shouldn't you just make as much profit as you can?
Yeah,
yeah, of course. The idea is to create as much profit as you can, but I think there's also a check and balance. You've got to, how do you monitor that? How do you make sure that profit margin is what it is? Do you, like, for instance, in my system, we currently have clock in, clock outs of jobs. And right now there's some contention in the shop right now because I'm trying to get them to clock into each work order, but sometimes they work on multiple work orders at a time. So it's kind of hard for them to be clocking into that one work order.
You're doing the timing where you time
well, we have
those?
Serious software has a capability to every project we have is in our WIP and our work in progress. And I'm sure Tamara would be familiar with this. So when I was saying profit margin watching, it was more like when we write the estimates up, we look at the margins of what this estimate is going to go out. And, we try to gauge the best case scenario and, hey, if we do this job perfect the first time, and this is how many hours it's going to take, based off of a guess. Every estimate you ever do is just a real close guess of how much cost you're going to have to pay out to make this job work. And so in order to back check that and make sure that you're getting what you thought you were going to get, sometimes you have to monitor these things. You have to say, all right, guys, clock into this job when you guys are on the job. If it's feasible, if there's something where they're all working on a job, you have to monitor that, for artwork time, removals, any type of labor job where you're charging time and material. How do you monitor that? I know a lot of people, I know some people will actually write down their hours on their ticket and put it on the car. And that way, when that vehicle is over with, then it gets back and they put it in the system. They enter in the manual hours of what it is. So sometimes people do that. And I've seen people try to do it electronically. We've seen people try to do it manually. And that's, sometimes it's hard to find that balance of how you track those things and where you see where you're coming out and where you're losing money.
We would spend more time analyzing paperwork because I got guys that are removing 15 minutes here and they're laminating 20 minutes over here and they're cutting down on the table over here and then they're watching the printer over there. And I've got, an art department that's scattered. It goes in and out. You got one guy that sits there and that's all he does. And he's working on 5 different projects at one time. And we're steadily throwing things in his lap. Here, do this, do that. We need this. This is messed up. We need it resized. And it's on the fly. And Shane, that would be, I'd love to see how that operated. If you're really asking them to clock their time for removals and I get it because we go around and ask them because me and Keone want to know how much time did you spend out there prepping that vehicle? How long did it take to get that oxidation off that tractor trailer? We need to know those things just so we can input it in the system. But I don't know if there's a way to actually monitor it that would be efficient. Like I said, I'd be looking at paperwork going, damn, man, how are you zigzagging all over my shop like this? Because I'm doing it. I'm on 3 or 4 different vehicles at one time, or I'm dealing with a customer that walked in, or one that walks in out of nowhere, or a client that shows up with vehicles that you had no idea were coming. And it's a constant, like I said, it's a Chinese race every day. And
Tamir, what do you think about that? Do you monetize, or do you look at these hours and look at these clock in reports?
So what I've done sometimes, we don't do clock in, clock outs. What I've done sometimes it's called like a Gemba walk, like in lean manufacturing, going to the work is just sitting there and observing and just seeing what happens. And I've done that. I'll just take a day where, at a time, or a couple days at a time, where I'm just, everybody cover me on the front end. I'm not answering phones. I'm not doing anything. I'm just walking around and, and just observing, but I'm not there with a clipboard and, and a timer. I'm there, I'm there talking to people, and I'm seeing, hey, why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? I try to get more higher level data, as opposed to getting time data. The one thing I do, and the reason I do that is because if you don't do anything consistently, then the things that you do are not going you're not going to be able to do any sort of analysis from them. So if you try to track stuff, it's only as good as if you do that stuff day in, day out. Like, do they do it Monday through Friday, through the busy months, through the slow months? That's the only way you're going to be able to rely on that data. Or you get, a sample, across many, many days, many weeks.
The other piece of, we did that where I tracked all of that, and I kind of learned it from my days at the bank where we would do these time studies, and they would make you write down, I did this from this time, did this much project, so you would know how many hours, similar to an attorney or whatever. But what I figured doing it there and doing it in my own business was that when people are being tracked, their behavior changes.
Yeah.
So because of that, you're either going to do that forever, and the other thing is that I guess I'll say it this way: the information you get, most likely, it's a possibility that it's not 100% accurate based on the person writing it and what may have been going on at the time. So you just, I feel like more data is good if you can trust that data. And the other piece that I want to bring to light is, how do you feel about the people that you're working with? What does it feel like there when you work? What if how it feels is going to end up turning into data? And if you can change how things feel, even if it's, I feel more success because we're getting better at our process, or I feel more aligned with our purpose, I feel whatever it may be, I feel like if you do that, that's going to have a bigger effect on the numbers than even knowing them.
Shane, I've posed this question because I have walked into many shops and I've been able to see the process. I tell my guys, this is not the only shop in the country that deals with these things. Every shop I go into has a organized chaos. You have to understand each shop's system. And so my biggest thing is not to corporate our shop. I want it to stay more family oriented. And I feel like some of that systematic things that, Ramir, you were talking about walking around and just looking at the system and how it's working. I think that's an observation to see how you can change and make the system more efficient. And me and Keone are on the floor constantly doing that. And Keone is, he thinks a whole lot about that system and how we can make it more efficient. And we try to do things from the standpoint that the guys see us hands-on instead of do this, do that, pointing fingers. And I still think we need to step away from it. And my wife would agree, I'm sure, that being hands-on is not what I still need to be doing 10 years from now. But in order to get the right team together that is going to stay, like I said, most of the installation side, you may keep a designer 10 years, but to keep an installer who is a lead installer or is capable of going out and adapting to whatever the job hands him is hard to do. And the more corporate the sign industry becomes, I think the more you lose what Zeno, you were asking me earlier in the show, what I saw change the most. And that was it. When we were hand painting signs, there was a group of guys, man, that it was a family. You know what I mean? The sign industry, these guys that I grew up learning from and being a part of, it was a family thing. It wasn't corporate. And so the onset of the digital age, watching that transition, and in the sign industry as well, was huge.
Did people become lost that didn't want to transfer over into die cut? Like, were there
for me,
jobs lost, or people changing careers? What was that like in that environment?
And that was the thing. I transitioned into the digital age from offset printing standpoint. I was working on a 40-inch Komori 6-color with a coder, and we were doing 40-inch baseball cards.
I don't even
about
know
100,000 sheets a night. And I did that for almost 8 years as I was learning and perfecting my airbrushing skills, from coming out of hand painting signs to airbrushing them and doing custom jobs, and leading me into motorcycles and cars and stuff. But coming from an offset standpoint, and now the digital age came into place, and it took over. I mean, it about killed the offset industry. I mean, there's still a demand, and there's still a reason for offset to stay in place, but the digital side of printing has changed the game, and it changed the game for airbrushers and the hand painters and the sign guys from way back, to where either you did do that Xeno, you either just stopped. Some of the guys were old enough that well, I'm done with this. And then there were guys like me who had just got into it deep enough at the time when the transition happened in the 90s, that it was like, well, you either jump or sink with the ship, whichever you want to do, but it's going down. And so, I mean, yeah, I gave up on that side, but still the artistic side and the sign itself. I mean, the sign industry is huge. I heard y'all talking in the last show about SEMA. I haven't been to SEMA since the day my son was born, because he was born on November the 1st. And the day he was born, I was supposed to be on a flight to SEMA. And I made a promise that I wouldn't go back till I could take him with me and him understand what SEMA is. And his truck will be leaving the shop. He just turned 15. He gets his license in December. He got him a little truck. I made him take, you'll like this, Shane. I made him take the bed off and wrap between the cab and the bed. And I'm making him bring it back so we can take the doors off and doing the door jams. I'm making him do it the right way. It was a red truck. He wanted it black. And I said, okay, but this is what you got to do. But anyway, so in a couple of years, hopefully I'll be able to go to SEMA with him and my wife and go hang out. And I guess I will be the old guy by then. I'll be over 50, and we'll see how that goes.
You said SEMA in a way that made me think you were referring to as a religious experience almost.
Oh,
How
many times have you been?
I've never been there.
But, okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Mecca or something of all of the rap.
Well, you got to understand, I watched that grow as well. When my first SEMA show, I was 17 years old. That was 30 years ago. And SEMA was the convention center. And then it grew to this massive thing over the years. And I see Shane sitting back, and it's like, you've never been to SEMA. I wish I could be there when you go for the first time,
Well, I think I'm going to get peer pressured into it this year, even if I didn't want to. But I'm really excited to. I think it's given me a really healthy, good reason to want to go to Vegas.
It's memorable.
Oh, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself right now, Shane? You can't? Well, that's the penalty for not remembering to mute yourself.
Oh, I muted it. There we go.
Oh, that's what that was.
So I got a question that just popped into our feed. Why do shops have a hard time finding good installers, and how does a good installer make good money?
You're taking this one? Here you go.
A good installer make good money. Never, ever sell yourself short. What you're doing, not everyone can do. So even though in the larger side of the game that we play in, you have to accept some lower jobs that pay less. But when it comes down to it, more time gets under your belt, the more you do. When you say your price is your price, and people want to, I heard y'all tap on this last week. They want to complain about your price. It's a specialty. It's an art form, and I treat wraps and the installation of wraps as an art form. And I don't know if that helped me get where I am, but it surely didn't hurt.
I could feel this one too from my perspective.
Yeah, please.
So as a trade business, you know, we work with installers, we subcontract. I subcontract to other printers, even in the trade, and I see so many guys selling themselves short. You know, to your point, man, and it's sad in a way, really, because if your customers, you're an installer, and most of your customers are in the trade, think about it. That means they're taking your price to them, and they're saying, hey, just because I know a guy, I'm able to charge more than he's going to charge me. Right? If your customers are trade people, then you're not charging enough. And you're too comfortable with that, you know, with that work. Okay? You need to charge more. You need to go after the end clients more. You need to go after not the sign shops if you're an installer. You need to go after the printers or maybe the more established sign shops that have salespeople and overhead, and they have pricing that can pay for all that, meaning that they have pricing to pay you a fair price. You know what I mean? If you're going to go after, it's like Shane was saying, there's so many shops out there, you know, because they don't have any overhead, they price low, right? Well, what happens when they price low? That means they can't afford to pay you that much as an installer. Okay, so the reverse is true too. If you now target printers and sign companies that have larger shops and larger overheads and a sales staff and front end and all this garbage stuff that they have to pay for, where do you think they're able to sustain those kind of costs? They figured out how to price. Okay, they figured out how to make margin. Okay, when they're when they're going to the shows and they've got all their staff decked out, they're charging their customers the right price. Those are the customers, as an installer, as a designer, as anybody who's going to service this trade, as a skilled tradesman who's working on his own. Those are the customers you want. Don't go after the people with low overhead, and just because you can do it, you do it. Does that make sense, Shane, Zeno?
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, it was kind of poetic, actually. I was actually like going through in my head how I could make a really little, like, just a clip of that shit and be like, that's fucking inspirational for new people too, because it just says, hey man, and this is the way I thought about it, is look, if I do a job and it's worth $3,000 if I'm experienced as a pro, if I can't do the job that well, then don't even start charging for it. Keep practicing until you know what you're doing when you provide a good product. And if the product that you make out the gate is good, in the same way that when you're experienced later it's good, then charge what it's worth, right? That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry. You guys, I'll unmute you. Hold on.
Tamir, on that point,
Go ahead.
you know, we all want to keep our prices exactly where we need to be. And when we shoot back to focusing on your sales team, how do you manage your team? How do you manage your sales staff? What is it that you task them with? Tell us a little bit about your experience with your team and how that function works, because these are some real in-depth questions that I know a lot of guys out there that have shops, they don't know what to do, and hell, I struggle with it. I know we all probably have some struggles, and we're all. I really want to know, like, what are some of the things that you look for?
The question never dies about pricing, does it? Like,
it's not pricing. This is sales. This is building the team.
But all of those pieces, pricing, sales, how to put all of that, it never ends. Like, you think you'd figure it out one day, but you don't.
Yeah.
Something we're experiencing now, Shane, I don't know if you are, but if you don't give that sales team enough information, and God forbid it's a lot, they will go out and undersell you, and you have to do the job. And right now, another thing is if some are crossing, and that's why we wanted to be specific about where our sales team was focused, because it's become a competition. You know what I mean? And I guess sometimes competition is good, but not in the sense that it needs to affect the business side of, we need the sales. Well, y'all don't need y'all fighting over them. We need to get them in. We need to make these customers happy. If me and Keone need to go out and be a part of the sales force, that's fine. But I don't think allowing the sales team to sell you short, it really does hurt. But they learn from it. And I tell the installers, the people on our tables, the people printing, if you're not messing up, you're not learning. Because how would you ever know how far or how much heat you can put on a piece of vinyl for how long before it burns, unless you burn a piece of vinyl? It's real simple. You don't. I mean, how do you know when you've messed up putting something in a laminator and it's crooked and it's gonna? You got to learn, and you make mistakes, and that's how they learn. And I think the sales team is no different. And the sales team that I have, it's a challenge. Just stay on top of it.
Shane, I feel like I interrupted your question. Can you ask that again? I feel like
I think Tamir's got it. Did you get it, Tamir?
Did you get the question?
Yeah.
All right, I didn't
with us,
fuck it up. I thought I fucked it up.
No, I mean, I think learning is such a big aspect of it. But learning, getting it, putting the right specs in, that's huge in terms of like, how do we get them? What's the compensation and stuff? I have two main in-house salespeople, and they each earn over 6 figures managing our business. So I know I can keep them. They're not going anywhere, right? They're going to be my guys, and they combined, they have, over 15 years of experience in this industry, and nobody is going to poach them from me because of the way I compensate them. If you have an installer, let's go to the installer side now, right? If you have an installers, lead installers, right? They're so hard to to keep before they go on their own. If you paid your lead installer $120, do you think he'd be going on his own? He'd saying, "Oh, F that salary. I'm gonna try this thing on my own." Right? How are you going to get that salary? How are you going to pay for that? It goes back to pricing. How are you going to get the pricing on jobs? Not everybody's going to pay. We're trade printers. Everybody and their mom uses Science 365 for, buying banners at $1 a square foot. Not my customers. I'm selling $2.50, $3 a square foot to my customers in the trade because of what Science 365 can't provide. Somebody messaged me over Facebook yesterday. They're like, I need an 8x8 backdrop. Oh, fabric. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be, going to be able to fold it, use it a bunch of times, dye sublimation seamless. I could do it, $250. Oh, we can't afford that. Is this going to be for yourself or a customer? Oh, it's going to be for a customer, a photographer. I was like, oh, go to Science 65, you get $74 on vinyl delivered. Oh, thanks. I don't want that because I could do it for that too, but I don't want to. Will I make
Shane,
$15 on it?
What were
y'all
you saying,
touched on
Shane?
last week, Shane. What he's talking about is that customer. I think Kevin was talking about it, and if you go to a shop and they've got enough room to fit you in right then when you walk in, unexpected, uncalled, unannounced, and they have room to fit you in, you may not want to be at that shop getting your shit done, because we are 6 weeks out or thereabout right now, and most everybody I've talked to is that kind of busy, and that's a great problem to have. But it becomes a challenge to explain to customers, I can't do it for this cheap for what you want in the time frame you want it done in. There's a premium to pay for time, and it goes back to that time is money thing about your margins. So I mean I think, and that does stand true. Back to how you treat the installers, how you treat the sales team is huge. I like your idea about how you pay the installers. That's a big deal. I mean, I guess someone asked Shane, I think that's where the question came from, was on the chat, and about how the installers can make more money, and how good installers can make more money. And I have a lot of friends in the industry say, what did you do? Why'd you stop? I got tired of traveling. I got tired of traveling all over the country chasing it, when I said, okay, if me and Keone can get together and put our minds together and make his business and my business a big business, it's better off for us in the end. So a good installer is going to go out there and chase it. And I mean, you go at it. I mean, you watch Jeremy go all over the country, all over the world. Tucker did the same thing. Dallas, and I did it, and I just got the chase got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, I remember growing up here in North Carolina, being in racing, and all my life from the time I was painting on up into the signs and doing wraps for race teams. And we had a 44-foot trailer. We was at a track. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. It was the last race of the year. And I looked at everybody and said, all right, I'm done chasing racing. I'm going to start chasing the people on the hoods of these cars, because if they can afford the sponsorship for these race cars, they can afford to have me doing their graphics. And that's what I started
race cars,
doing.
that was what started it?
I think the wraps actually started from, it's funny now that paint protection film has got where it is, because I think wraps started from paint protection on cars that were being transported, and someone had the great idea, we can print on that material.
Interesting.
And I think NASCAR in general, racing, and the Formula One and some of the other big series had a big effect on some of the large manufacturers, and how they their research and development teams fortified and changed some of the things they did over the years. I can't really speak on that without being
Like, maybe
specific.
they started putting stickers on some things, and then they started making the stickers bigger, and they're like, hey, what if we made one really big sticker? Oh, I guess
one big sticker. And that's what I tell my guys at the shop all the time, man, don't stress it. It's just a sticker.
Yeah. Sometimes that sticker will eat you alive, though. So, Tamir, I have a question. When you look at the architecture, org chart, structure, whatever, of different sign companies, when it comes to sales teams, what kinds of structures do you see, whether it's commission here, or we focus more on marketing efforts or social, or we outsource this piece, we customer service, we outsource that, I mean, there's a lot of different structures, but I don't want to miss Shane's itch to understand the structures of what some of those things could be out there. So what have you seen? Because it's got to depend on what your business is too, right?
Right, exactly. How big, how big's your business? Where do you need the most support too? Because my guys, they could do 99% of the pricing. I might go in and give my, take a look at 5-figure jobs, stuff like that. But it all depends on where you're at in that evolution. So if you're the one doing the estimating and you've got zero front end support except for somebody who's just answering the phones, and you realize that you need sales support, well, the first step is to get somebody to just give you something, make your job a little bit easier, give you the specs on a silver platter. Okay, they're answering the phone. Hey, just take down the specs, punch it in serious, set it up for me. Then I'll give you the price, and then you communicate it with the customer. You start going back and forth, and then it might be a pain in the ass at first. Hey, the customer asked me this, and they're going back and forth with you. You're going to have those growing pains, and you're going to have people mess up. They're going to forget digits, and they're going to put it on the wrong materials. But like Troy said, man, it's all about mistakes, and you grow from them. So as far as structure, I see it more as like an evolutionary thing, depending on where you're at. I have sales team that 2 sales guys that do all of the front end stuff, and and I told you how much I compensate them. And I have an outside guy who's strict commission, who came in, knowing the industry and just needed a home. So you have to provide your guys with one of 2 things. In order to attract seasoned people that know their stuff, and you don't need to train them technically, you need to provide them with either unique capabilities, which most sign shops frankly don't have. Unless maybe you're in you're doing apparel perhaps, and you've got you're doing a whole bunch of screen printing, and you're going after corporate clients, and maybe you can play that angle. But if you don't have unique capabilities that other sign shops don't have, then you have to give them a way to grow. You can't just say, "Hey, I'll be your sign shop, just and I'll give you a rake." That's not, anybody can give them a rake. Anybody can give them commission. What are you going to do for them? Are you going to teach them how you've been able? The number one question I get asked with prospective salespeople would say, "Hey, what's been working for you, for your business and growing your business? And I would love to just be a soldier,
Troy,
for your system."
Troy, do you have something to say to that?
I think, do you do any cross training within the shop, or you, Shane? Yeah.
Yeah, I think cross training is important. We have, a lot of our guys in the back that run equipment. We have a couple guys that can run different types of machines. So it helps when you have a guy out or a guy down. Everybody kind of knows. The irony is I went to Yellow Tools in Germany about a year and a half ago, and they are very, very, Michael Altoff is really into lean manufacturing, and he's very Kaizen. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen is how he put together one of the most well-organized, well-oiled machines I have ever seen. I've been to a lot of places and seen a lot of things, and to walk into a facility that had that much organization, was that lean, was truly refreshing to really see that. And he had a chart on the wall that showed all the employees, and each one of those employees, there was a different job task. So imagine a names in one column, and then the different types of work. So up top, you could have maybe press operator, production, designer, things that happen, things that people do. And he had 3 dots, I believe. And I'll probably mess this up, but Michael, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But he basically had 3 dots. 1 was like, you don't know how to do it. 2 was you don't know, but you want to learn. And 3 was, you know. And the 4th one, I think there was a 4th one. I think it was, you're a master and you can train. So there were a couple people's names that had 4 dots all the way down, or basically it was like a circle. It was a pie. It was a pie chart. And if your pie chart was full, that means that you were an expert and could train everybody. If it was 3/4 full, you knew how to do it, but you couldn't train somebody. And halfway was, you wanted to learn, but you haven't learned yet. So you could look at this chart and you could see how everybody in the shop could do a specific task. If that person was gone and it was an accounting person, you could look up there and be like, all right, that person's gone, but this person can do that job, so I'll go ask them. And I mean, it was such an amazing thing. And you know, I failed to implement it in my own business. I want to, I really do, because it was so cool to see how each employee could grow in the company. And you know, the more full circles you had, the more valuable you were at that company. And
I think that,
you know,
cross training is efficiency.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that the sales team should have to come out and be a part of a full wrap color change. And then I think they should come out and be a part of a full commercial van wrap. And then I think that all of my installers should have to sell a job. I think they should have to go in and design one, learn how to get it on the printer and off the printer and into production, and vice versa. The production team back up, sell a job. I'll give you commission, and we do. We offer everybody in our shop a commission on sales.
What would you do? What would you do to somebody that doesn't want to do certain things?
Well, okay, so if I'll go out in the pouring rain and wash 3 vehicles down, I expect anybody in my shop to be able to do the same thing for us. It's a team. We do nothing as individuals. We do it all together. We either fail together or we succeed together.
And you do all of, and you'll do all of it, and that therefore there's no reason why everybody else can't do all of it.
Why shouldn't I be able to ask you to?
Right.
Yeah, this has been awesome, guys. I really appreciate, you know, Tamir, I know you got to go, so I wanted to give you a proper send off and proper goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us.
For sure.
And giving us some of these sign business mastery tips. You are probably going to hear from me. Count on it.
Awesome, guys. No, this was totally fun. And Zeno, it was great meeting you for the first time, Troy. Really great kind of like co-doing this with you tonight. And
yes, sir.
I hope we could do it again. This was awesome.
Well, and this is
I hope there's many more of these to come.
This is only our
absolutely.
This is only our 3rd one, and I still haven't learned how to not interrupt people. So it'll probably continually get better, you know, as I figure out more and more about what I'm doing. But I just know this. If you wait until the perfect thing is in your head till you start to move, you will never go anywhere. So go ahead and just screw it up. So I just said, fuck it. We're going live. I don't know how to do this. Let's see if it works. And it keeps getting a little bit better. So, and I know that one day we'll look back at this and go, Jesus, I didn't know what I was doing. But for now, it's working out really great. And I have to say thank you to all you guys for your time, because I know it's very valuable. And, yeah, go ahead.
Zeno, Tamir, the same. I appreciate the opportunity, and I definitely will give you my input anytime you need. I'd love to get your information, Tamir, at some point. And Zeno, now that I got yours, I can communicate a little bit more back and forth.
Yeah.
I'll be on the chats anytime you want me on. Just let me know.
Oh, and because we are wrapping up, there is a Clubhouse after party after this in Clubhouse. And I also tested it out that in the Clubhouse app, the drop-in audio app, it is now out on Android, which means all those people could not get in. Now they can. And you could join the I'd Wrap That Club, where we only allow members of that club to be people in the sign and graphics industry. So
awesome. Tamir, what's the site that people can check you out at? Where can somebody go that wants to learn some of these awesome tips that you have?
Yeah, so best place is my Facebook business page, Sign Business Mastery. That's where I go live. I've put videos, short little videos that can help you, that can help anybody, in this business, whether it's pricing, hiring, team building, marketing, whatever it is.
I'm going to put that in the comments below. That way everybody can go check it out.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Just out of curiosity,
Great having
what
you.
time zones everybody in?
I'm in Central.
Pacific, baby.
East Coast?
That was
Yeah,
actually kind of
it's
funny.
10 o'clock here. Yeah, I agree.
You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I didn't know you were so gangsta. Fucking awesome. And
Tamir, it was
there's
nice to
that
meet you, man.
grandfather clock to say
Great.
goodnight to us all. Thank you, for everybody coming on. So, good night. It was really fun.